Hello and welcome to another episode of our private pilot training series. Today we're going to cover yet another important maneuver that every pilot should master, and it's absolutely going to be on your private pilot check ride. That is the soft field takeoff and landing. Whether you're dealing with a grass strip, a dirt runway, or any other non-paved surface, these skills will ensure that you handle your aircraft safely and smoothly. Let's start with the soft field takeoff. The main goal here is to get the aircraft off the ground as soon as possible to avoid any damage from the rough surface. I'll talk about a few key points to help you master this maneuver. So for preparation and rollout, before we even start the takeoff roll, we need to make sure that the aircraft is properly configured. Our flaps are set according to the aircraft's POH. Typically, that's 25 degrees in a Piper Warrior or 10 degrees in a Cessna 172. We'll also hold the yoke full back to keep the nose wheel light. When we are ready to taxi onto the runway, we will continue to hold the yoke full back with proper wind correction and maintain taxi speed without much variation in power settings to ensure that we roll up onto the runway without speeding up or slowing down too much. We will also avoid using brakes or making any sharp turns. In terms of power application, the takeoff roll is a rolling takeoff. This means without stopping, we will smoothly apply full power while keeping back pressure on the yoke. This helps to lift the nose wheel off the ground early, reducing friction and potential damage. So as the nose lifts, the aircraft will become airborne at a lower airspeed. We want to slowly and smoothly release the back pressure to level the aircraft about half a wingspan above the runway to stay in ground effect. The visual will look a lot like when you first transition from a descent to a normal landing prior to the flare. You can imagine ground effect being the layer of air that's squished between the surface and the wings. It helps reduce induced drag by slightly alter the wingtip vortices. Once we reach to a safe airspeed, either Vx or Vy, depending on the type of soft field takeoff you're performing, we will pitch up and climb out of ground effect and establish a positive rate of climb. When we can identify a positive rate of climb on our vertical speed indicator, we'll smoothly retract our flaps. It is crucial that our maneuvers comply with the Airmen Certification Standards, or ACS. So let's break down the skills required for the soft field takeoff and climb as per the ACS. Skill 1, complete the appropriate checklist. Think of your checklist as your pre-flight ritual. This is your safety net to make sure that you haven't missed anything important before takeoff. Really refer to your checklist to make sure the aircraft is properly configured for the type of takeoff. Skill 2, make radio calls as appropriate. Communication is key. Make sure that you let everyone know your plan by making the necessary radio calls, especially at non-towered airports. This keeps you and everyone around you safe and on the same page. Skill 3, verify assigned and correct runway. Double-checking your runway might seem simple, but it's crucial. Make sure you are lined up on the right one and avoid any surprises. Use your eyes and your instruments to confirm. Skill 4, determine wind direction with or without visible wind direction indicators. Knowing the wind direction helps you adjust your takeoff technique. Look for windsocks, listen to ATIS, or use other clues like smoke or the way trees are swaying. Skill 5, position the flight controls for the existing wind if applicable. Adjust your control to match the wind correction, especially if there is a crosswind. This keeps you on track and prevent any unwanted drifts during takeoff. Skill 6, clear the area, maintain necessary flight control inputs, taxi into takeoff position, and align the airplane on the runway centerline without stopping, while advancing the throttle smoothly to take off power. Make sure the area is clear of obstacles and other traffic. Keep your movement smooth and steady as you roll into position and apply full power without stopping to keep your momentum going. Skill 7, confirm takeoff power and proper engine and flight instrument indications. Check that you have full power and that all your instruments are reading correctly. If something looks off, be ready to abort the takeoff and figure out what's wrong. Skill 8. Establish and maintain a pitch attitude that transfers the weight of the airplane from the wheels to the wings as rapidly as possible. So lift the nose wheel early to reduce friction and avoid getting bogged down in the soft field. Keep a gentle back pressure on the yoke. Skill 9. Lift off at the lowest possible airspeed and remain in ground effect while accelerating to VX or VY as appropriate. Use ground effect to your advantage. Stay low to the ground to build up speed safely before you start climbing out. Skill 10. Establish a pitch attitude for VX or VY as appropriate and maintain selected airspeed plus 10 or minus 5 knots during the climb. Once you are ready to climb, set the right pitch attitude and keep an eye out on your airspeed. Stay within the target range to ensure a smooth and safe ascent. Mastering these skills can ensure that your soft field takeoffs and climb are safe and up to FAA standards. And keep practicing, and soon you will be confident and proficient in handling these maneuvers. Let's go fly.
Hello everyone, welcome to the flight deck. And in this part of the video, we're going to demonstrate how to fly a soft field takeoff. We're going to remain in the pattern and then come back for a soft field landing. Okay, so like I mentioned in the first section of the video, we always want to refer to our checklist to make sure that the plane is properly configured. All right, so here is the checklist for our soft field takeoff. Flaps 25 degrees, that's 2 notches in the Piper Warriors. Controls full back, we'll add full back pressure as we taxi onto the runway, and then we will also take a note of the wind correction. Today we have some slight right crosswind, so we want to make sure that we have that wind correction in. And time checked, heading indicator, we bucked our runway heading 140. Airspeed, we'll let the plane come up as soon as it's ready, and we will ride ground effect until we reach to our best rated climb, which is 79 knots. Once we see 79 knots, we'll let the nose gently come up, and then with identify positive rate of climb, and then we would retract our flaps. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for a soft field takeoff. Verify that the runway is clear, final is clear. I haven't heard anyone in the pattern yet, so we are good to go. Make sure the doors is latched, and all right, making a call. Random traffic, Warrior 32 November Alpha, departing runway 14, remain in the pattern, Northampton. All right, the taxi, remember, full back pressure, add a little bit of power. We want to avoid using brakes, making any sharp turns, or generally having the plane go too fast or too slow. Again, this is a rolling takeoff. Once we roll up onto the runway, verify, and then smoothly add full power. Right now, this turn without brakes is going to be a little wide, so I want to initiate this turn a little sooner than normal. Wind correction in, runway verified, 14, smoothly add full power. Takeoff power, it's set, engine gauges in the green, airspeed is alive. Now I can already feel the nose getting light. I'm going to let go of some of that back pressure to prevent over rotation. All right, now the plane is up. I'm going to transition from a back pressure into a forward pressure and then ride in a ground effect until I see 79. Right, I'm pushing in more and more, and I see 79, and I'll let the nose gently come up. Positive rate, first notch. And second notch, I can let the pitch come up just a little bit to hold my 79, right? And then we want to hold runway heading. Whether you use your visual point on the horizon or another trick that we have this little handy dandy G5 here with a ground track indicator, which is a little purple dot. If I put that purple dot on my heading bug, I would be tracking my runway heading on takeoff. I'm going to hold my best rate of climb, and then climb to pattern altitude for our purpose. All right, so I'm coming up on 800 feet, which is 300 within before my pattern altitude. I can initiate my crosswind turn. Clear left. Really use your visual references to make sure that your pitch doesn't change much throughout the climb. Gentle bank, no more than 30 degrees. I'm coming up to my pattern altitude, pitch, power. 2100 RPM is good for pattern. All right, I'll look at the runway and make sure that I roll out perpendicularly. All right, left traffic, 32 November Alpha, left crosswind, runway 14 Northampton.
Now let's talk about soft field landing. The goal here is to touch down as softly as possible to prevent damage to the aircraft. Here are some key steps. In terms of approach, we'll start our approach with a bit more power than we usually do to keep the descent shallow. So flaps should also be fully extended as per the POH, typically 30 degrees. As we approach the runway, we will hold a slightly nose-high attitude. The nose pitch is a lot milder than a full stall landing. In the flare, when you feel the sink, add a little bit of power to cushion the touchdown. Aim to touch down on the main wheels first while keeping the nose wheel off the ground as long as possible. Once on the ground, we keep the back pressure on the yoke to maintain the nose-high attitude. This helps to keep the nose wheel off the ground, minimizing its contact with the soft surface. As we slow down, we will gradually lower the nose wheel onto the runway and use minimal braking to avoid getting stuck in the soft field. Always taxi slowly and carefully on soft surfaces to prevent any damage or getting bogged down. Let's break down the skills you need for a soft field landing according to the ACS. Skill 1, complete your appropriate checklist. This is your pre-landing ritual to make sure that everything is set up correctly. So take your time and don't rush through it. 2, make radio calls as appropriate. Communication keeps everyone safe, so make the necessary calls to let other people know your intentions and then keep the airspace organized. Skill 3, ensure the airplane is aligned with the correct and assigned runway. Double check that you are lined up with the correct runway. It is a simple but crucial step to avoid any mistakes. Skill 4, scan the landing runway and adjoining area for traffic and obstructions. Look for any traffic or obstacles on and around the runway to make sure your landing area is clear. Skill 5, select and aim for a suitable touchdown point considering the wind corrections, landing surface, and obstructions. Pick a spot on the runway that's free of obstacles and consider the wind and surface conditions. This helps you plan for a smooth touchdown. Skill 6, establish the recommended approach and landing configuration, airspeed, and trim, and adjust pitch attitude and power as required to maintain a stabilized approach. So set up your approach with the right configuration, airspeed, and trim. Keep adjusting your pitch and power to stay stable. Skill 7, maintain manufacturer's published approach speed, or in its absence, no more than 1.3 VSO, plus 10 or minus 5 knots with gust factor applied. So stick to the recommended approach speed, or if not available, keep it around VREF, which is 1.3 times the stall speed with flaps. Adjust for gust factors as needed. Skill 8, maintain directional control and appropriate crosswind correction throughout the approach and landing. So keep control of your direction and make the necessary adjustment for any crosswind. This ensures that you stay aligned with the runway. Skill 9, make smooth, timely, and correct control inputs during the round out and touchdown, and then for tricycle gear airplane, keep the nose wheel off the surface until loss of elevator effectiveness. So use smooth and precise control inputs as you round out and touch down. For our training aircrafts, we want to keep the nose wheel off the ground for as long as possible. Skill 10, touch down at appropriate pitch attitude with minimum sink rate, no side drift, and with the airplane's longitudinal axis aligned with the center of the runway. So aim for a gentle touchdown with minimal sink rate, keep the plane aligned with the center of the runway and avoid drifting to the side. Skill 11, maintain elevator as recommended by manufacturer during rollout and exit the soft area at a speed that would preclude sinking into the surface. So follow the manufacturer's recommendations for elevator control during rollout. Move slowly to prevent getting stuck in the soft surface. Skill 12, execute a timely go around if approach cannot be made within the tolerances specified above or for any other conditions that may result in an unsafe approach or landing. So if things don't look right, don't hesitate to go around. It's better to try again than to risk an unsafe landing. And last, skill 13. Maintain proper position of the flight controls and sufficient speed to taxi while on the soft surface. So keep your flight controls in the correct position and taxi at an airspeed that prevents you from sinking into the soft surface. These skills will ensure that your soft landings are safe and up to FAA standards for certification purposes. Let's go fly.
Alright, in this part of the video I'm going to demonstrate a soft field landing. So we are now established on the downwind for our landing runway. I have the runway environment off my left hand side. There are no other airplanes in the way, no vehicles or anything on the ground. It's free of obstruction. This is going to be a simulated soft field landing. Right, so on downwind we always do our landing checklist. Fuel on the fuller tank, primer in and locked, mixer full rich, fuel pump, landing light on, seatbelt is secure. Now we can make a call. Traffic, we're 32 November Alpha, left downwind, runway 14, Northampton. Alright, so now I'm at my beam point, power to about 1600 RPM-ish. Alright, verify that our airspeed is in the white arc. I'm going to add in my first notch of flaps. Alright, established about a 500 feet per minute descent. And then when the numbers or aiming point are about 45 degrees behind us, we're going to initiate our base turn. Now some people like to start adding flaps in the turn. I'd strongly discourage that. We want to make sure that we add our flaps when we are straight and level, in case we get a asymmetrical flap situation. All right. Perpendicular to the runway, second notch of flaps, radio call, Northern traffic, 32 November Alpha, left base, runway 14, full stop, Northampton. Alright, coming in on base, airspeed looks good, we don't want to be too slow, we can use our pitch and power combination, pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. Looking great, I'm going to initiate my final turn. Traffic, 32 November Alpha, final 14, full stop, Northampton. Alright, airspeed looking great. I'm going to add in my last notch of flaps. Keep centered on the extended center line. Aim at the numbers or your aiming points. What I'm aiming at is the numbers. I'm coming in slightly hot and then slightly flat. Right? I can use my power to maintain my glide path and then pitch to maintain my airspeed. Once I have the runway made, I'm going to cut the power to an idle and then come into a flare, right? Remain on the center line, use your rudder. I feel the sink, so I'm going to add a little bit of power to kind of cushion that and then align your nose down the runway as much as you can. I don't want to jam in all that back pressure as my first touchdown because that will, because of the airspeed, we might go back in the air again. So I'm going to smoothly add back pressure to a stop as we bleed off all the energy. All right. Again, remain on the center line. Use your rudders to line yourself up. No brakes. And then we're coming up to the end of the runway. Simulated soft field landing.
Thanks for joining me today as we cover the essential techniques and skills needed for soft field takeoffs and landings. Let's quickly recap what we've learned. We started with the key points of soft field takeoffs, from preparing your aircraft and rolling out smoothly to maintaining proper control as we lift off and enter ground effect. Remember, mastering the art of lifting off at the lowest possible airspeed and using ground effect is crucial to getting airborne safely and effectively on soft surfaces. Then we discussed the landing approach, focusing on maintaining a stable descent, the correct use of flaps, and aiming for a smooth touchdown with a nose-high attitude to protect the nose wheel. Don't forget to keep that gentle control input during rollout and taxi to prevent getting stuck in the soft field. We also went over the Airmen Certification Standards, which detailed the precise skills you needed to master for both takeoffs and landings. From completing checklists to making radio calls to managing wind corrections and maintaining proper airspeeds, these standards ensure that you are not just flying, but flying with excellence and safety in mind. And in the flight demonstration, we put all this theory into practice. You saw firsthand how these maneuvers are executed, emphasizing smooth transitions and precise control, which are key to mastering soft field operations. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you that practice makes perfect, so head to the airfield and get comfortable with these maneuvers. It's important to build muscle memory and confidence in your ability to handle soft fields. As always, safety and precision are your best friends in the cockpit. If you have any questions or need further clarification on anything we covered today, please feel free to drop a comment or reach out to me directly. Again, this is Simon. Remember, whether it's a grass strip or a gravel runway, you've got the skills to take it on. Until next time, keep the wings level and happy flying.
Alright, in this part of the video, we are going to demonstrate a soft field takeoff, but with the obstacle clearance requirement. So that means that it's essentially a combination of a soft field and soft field. We're going to use our soft field takeoff techniques, but imagine that there is a 50 feet obstacle off the departure end of the runway. Right, so again, we're going to use our checklist to set up for the takeoff. Soft field takeoff flaps 25 degrees. Controls full back. We'll remember to add that in with the appropriate wind correction. Time check. Heading indicator is still bugged. Runway heading. Airspeed will let the plane come off as soon as it's ready. And then in ground effect, instead of reaching VY, we are going to start pitching up at VX, which is 63 in this aircraft. And we will leave the 2 notches of flaps in and maintain a airspeed of VX until we are 200 feet above ground level, which is at this airport 300 feet indicated. Once we reach that, we'll have the nose pitch forward and maintain a positive rate of climb, and then pitch 479, and then slowly retract our flaps. Okay. All right. Final is clear, runway is clear, door is latched, and we are ready to roll. Full back pressure, make a call. Northern traffic, Warrior 32 November Alpha departing runway 14 in the pattern, Northampton. Alright, cool. This, again, same technique as a normal soft field takeoff. With a little bit of power, get the plane rolling, full back pressure, avoid any sharp turns, too slow, too fast, or using any brakes. Alright, start this turn a little early, because we can't use brakes. Rolling takeoff, wind correction, full power. Takeoff power is set, gauge is in the green, airspeed is alive. I'm going to slowly return my yoke to neutral. Let in some of that back pressure so I don't over-rotate. Use your right rudder to maintain center line. Alright, transition from a back pressure to a forward pressure. 63 is coming up fast, right? So I'm going to maintain 63. .300 feet above, pitch 479. Slowly retract your flaps, maintain that positive rate, right? Same thing, use the purple dot to maintain a runway heading.